from inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show, coming on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app to your smartphone so you can stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. Can't thank you enough for making this part of your day today. And as I head into my 42nd year in this lifetime, the last 10 years of my life have produced a tremendous amount of growth in my cultivation of my spirit and the connection of mind to body. And I've done it through not just, bloviating on my own on the radio about things that I think I know or anything like that, but I try to access those who are in touch with their multidimensional spirit and who can enlighten other people and inspire other people to be themselves. And I've found this pocket of people who often have, maybe the best way to say it is, an idealistic sort of macro view of society and the world and in the world in which we live, but a cosmic approach as to how to affect change within their own worlds. And they recognize through a variety of mediums that either you're going to, tackle problems that you have no control over, or you can inspire and be a problem solver and a healer for people in the real time. And that will raise frequencies, and that will ultimately raise the collective vibration of the world. And I got a chance today to talk to somebody who's been doing all that. What an honor, Roxanna Kopp Smith. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you. I'd like you to talk a little bit about how much live music played a role for you when you were younger in connecting with a peer group or people that were already Reiki, or people that were practicing healing techniques, if you had a lot of exposure to live music and if you had found a community there when you were younger.
Okay, thanks. That is definitely a curveball question, and I like it, so I'm glad. Live music for me was an escape from my childhood. There was a lot of alcoholism in my parents and step-parents, and a lot of suffering at home. And in high school, live music became a doorway out of the kind of painful daily, day-to-day existence that I was in. And so did drugs at that time. I mean, that was really...
when you talk about the live music, did it get to the point where you would have to be right in front of the bandstand feeling the vibrational energy? Did you find it to be, because that's what's, music never used to be about that for me. Even in college, when I first got into live music, I would just sort of go because it was a social thing to do, or, the thing to do on a Friday night. But I would sit there and, I take it in, but it would be potentially spiritual music, but I wasn't accessing it. Now it has allowed me to access my multidimensional self, and it's a healing it's healing for me. So, and I wonder about for you, because you were really in a traumatic situation, how close to the vibrations did you want to, because what I'm getting at is now you have these completely high-powered sound systems, and a lot of music is played in big rock arenas and things like that. But even so, now when I go to music in mid-sized clubs, I just want to be up front, in front of the speaker stacks, so I can feel the stage. I can feel the stage sound and the vibration. And an escape is one thing, but an escape is to me is I'm really I'm at Stanford and I'm studying a lot and I need an escape. But this to me was was did it heal you for several days after, so that you were able to deal more effectively with the trauma and the dysfunction at home?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about it, and kind of the answer is yes, all of the above. A lot of similar to reading books. Reading was an escape, but it was also this incredible window into a whole nother world of words and literature and story that I carry to this day with me. And music was that as well. It was riding a wave. It was feeling a feeling of joy. And so music in general, I love music. I'm always listening to music, and it can be transcendent and heart-opening and beautiful. And live music in particular, there's a way sometimes, if I'm standing right by a speaker, I definitely feel the beat and the rhythm and the pulse in a way that's very personal, and it can move me.
Mm-hmm.
Same with guitar. Really good guitar is just, for me, really amazing.
The things you mentioned about music, the keys to music, and a lot of it's missing in like popular modern music, is dynamics and pulse and tension and release, because basically
Right.
we have a lot of automated machines that are, or people that are trying to comp machine parts. And yeah, I mean, like, to me, was there a certain group that, it's all music to me. I've sort of have my hands all over the map as it relates to the kind of music and the musicians. I actually kind of get off more on the musicians than, I love the music, but the musicians are so real, and they go there with you sometimes. As you develop your individual voice, they really joust with you, and it's always just like, there's just infinite wisdom, And so, was there some, like in your hometown growing up? I mean, what were some of the bands you were going to see live?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a suburb north of Chicago, so in the summers we had Ravinia. I don't know if you've ever heard of that venue, but
Wait, where is that? I've never heard of that venue. Where?
It's in Highland Park. It's in Highland Park, Illinois, and it's a beautiful outdoor music venue that has symphony, jazz, pop music, and it's in the summer, and it's beautiful. And so Pat Metheny was playing at Ravinia. I really love jazz. The bands I saw in my youth were the Grateful Dead, and I was just 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, and I know exactly where you saw them, was the Uptown Theater.
Yeah.
I knew
Yes.
it. 79 and 80. This is on. Okay, so I never saw them, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm publishing a book on them with the Merry Pranksters and Wavy Gravy, because I've interviewed all those cats. I haven't interviewed Guys from the Dead, but this is that to me is where the rubber meets the road, because to me, the music can be great, but it's about the urgency and the intensity with which you bring to it's the vibe, it's the vibe that you bring to your yogic practice, or to your healing methodologies and your modalities. And then, but you came up at a time when there was, I guess, when was the first time? A lot of people look at LSD. You go back to the April experiment in '64 with Leary and Ram Dass. At the time was Richard Alpert. And are you familiar with the April experiment?
Yeah.
You are. Okay. So essentially, some people got this placebo cocktail that was like full of like mixed stuff, and no one got off on it. And then they got some of the other 10 had like the most purest LSD, and so it was like a God drug. People wanted to see God. That's what they would say.
Right.
That's you're right.
Yeah.
And the remarkable thing is that it was legal. It was
Right.
completely legal. Now you were probably too young a girl to be. I mean, if you were seeing the Grateful Dead in the late 70s, early 80s, I mean, but
Yeah.
you know,
No,
so
I was born in '64, so.
right. So you were born when it was still legal, and I wonder about if you can say that you had. Did you? So as it evolved over time, it became a more of a party. I don't know what the right word is. I mean, Millbrook, it was in isolation.
Recreational.
Yes, I mean when you really, I mean when you interview some of these merry pranksters, it's like they sat in a room, in a sterile room at a VA hospital, and the doctors would come in with these long needles every like 3 hours to take a blood sample. It was bizarre.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
You know, and it's just what it was. It was government regulated stuff, but still, again, eventually. And I just wonder how you, looking back on it, I say to myself, I definitely accessed a different spiritual plane on LSD, and sometimes it was a darker plane. It was not a great trip, and I wonder about if you were already in touch with your multidimensional self. And what did LSD do, if anything, to accentuate that part of you?
Okay, the short answer is I have always been a spiritual being. I can go back to early memories of that, and I can also, and in high school in particular, which is a long time ago, I was, again, just looking for that way out. So drugs for me, I didn't take LSD. The first time I took acid, I wasn't thinking I'd like to connect and tune in. I was thinking I just want to get tuned out. And so I was taking larger doses than I think they would give today for an experience. So I was not usually having great experiences. I was very worried, and all my anxiety would come out, and I wasn't always great. Like I always had to have a friend remind me, "Hey, this is fun, remember?" And then I would kind of snap back. However, two things. One, I got sober. I stopped doing everything at 19, which was a long time ago, but subsequently in my later adulthood, I have been experimenting more with plant medicine, and including, not this is chemical, but I have taken LSD in the last 5 or 7 years and had a much different experience. Although I found that for me, I go deeper when I'm in nature and when.
That was so beautifully expressed. I mean, it's easy to be internal when you're tripping out younger. I mean, some people obviously can just, to me it was like, you always wanted to be in a good state of mind going into it. Like with ayahuasca, is that some plant medicine that you've been, can you talk? Because I mean, DMT was a very popular drug with that sort of psychedelicized early 60s. I mean, it was, and I haven't ever done it before, but I find I mean, what made you want to go back and sort of access the doors of perception with plant medicine, being that you had become very, I don't want to say square, because you're on a really good frequency, but
a teetotaler, basically.
A teetotaler. That's the right word right there. That's it. Yeah. All right. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Okay, well, first of all, great question. And secondly, just a quick
Sure.
zip out for a second. Have you heard about the story that Ram Dass tells about giving his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, LSD?
I, I will send you one of my. I didn't send you interview. Well, I sent you one, but
Yeah.
Krishna.
Do an interview about that?
No, well, Krishna Das. Do you know Krishna Das?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
he's a dear
Yeah.
friend. He's a good friend of mine. We've done two
Uh-huh.
epic interviews, and he tells he
Yeah.
breaks the entire thing down about, and it was
Oh, I like
crazy because I still,
Yeah.
4 pills that would put a horse on
Right.
the moon, and it
Yeah.
didn't affect.
Zero effect.
Zero effect, Roxanna.
Yeah.
Zero effect.
Which I love. I love
I
that
love
story
it. I
because
love it so much.
what I will say is, you asked me the question, what led me, being that I was substance free, what brought me to a state where I wanted to try plant medicine? And what I'll say is that in my healing path of learning and practicing yoga and mantra and meditation, I have achieved states of ecstasy and clarity and creativity from my practice that I never ever experienced in my early youth. Prior to 19, when I stopped doing all chemicals, I had these experiences I've had through, if you will, like natural highs, have been so powerful and potent. And as I've been on this path, I have all my life, I always wanted to be mellow. That was the word. Like in high school, I thought I was kind of a nerd or hyper or just a spaz. And I would look at people who seemed super chill and think, wow, I wish I could just be mellow like them. And interestingly, now when people meet me, they describe me as very grounded,
Right.
very calm.
Right.
And I feel like, wow, I have become the person I always wanted to be. And in that groundedness, in that state of being home within, I have expanded my mind to open up to other experiences that can happen through the medicine of plants. And I love plants. I love the plant world. It's mind-boggling how much plants serve us in everything from toilet paper, paper towels, paper, food, clothing. It's just medicine. It's so amazing how they serve us as humans, and there is real medicinal healing to be had through plants. So whether it's ayahuasca or San Pedro or cannabis, mushrooms, it's fascinating. So I have opened myself up to experiencing some of those. It's a totally...
Yeah, I mean, could you give an example of the creativity component? Can you give an example of the creativity component in your own existence? Because, like, I mean, I don't know how to say this artfully, but a lot of people that are like, they get these rigid thought patterns, and then and as they get older, if they have a significant other or a spouse, either they still have some love together or they have almost nothing in common. But the point is that there's like a rigidity there, and and as a result, you look less and less towards the light as you get older. And I feel like you maybe it was subconscious or unconscious, but it was more like you've always been a light being, and your aura is very strong. So that, you said in order to continue to be optimistic, creative, good intentioned, I want to be able to. I need to push myself out of my comfort zone.
Oh, I don't know if I really said that, but I think that sounds good. I mean, I don't...
I
feel
know
like
you didn't say that. It was an all subconscious kind of
Okay.
thing. But looking back on it,
Yeah.
because the other direction was something that didn't really align with your muse, which is. But can you give an example of like some burst of creativity that you had on plant medicine?
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, how about this? Listen, you can think about.
Let me. Let me just say one thing. There's some people doing some incredible work, and they're developing plant medicine that is specifically in tune with Western culture, and we're so heady, right? Like the U.S. is very. A generalization is that in the Western culture we are very in our brain. We're very cerebral, very, very result oriented. Mm-hmm. So these particular folks, this particular lineage, is developing plant medicine that is particularly heart opening, and that is super aligned with where I'm at and where I'm going in my life as far as just continuing to open my heart to feeling love, sharing love, spreading love, and healing. So to the extent where it's almost like the medicine lives within now, I don't need to do it, I just am it.
You are it. You're it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you nailed it. Roxanna, we have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I don't expect you to know who this is, but pay attention to the content because it's just weaving right into the to the conversation. So take a listen. We'll come back.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, love to me is what makes everything go around. I think that love created the universe. I think that if you say you do not believe in God, you're an atheist or whatever, I respect that. I think we all need to respect how each other feels about things in life. But for you to say that you don't believe in God, and if you have a little daughter or a little son, and you look in their eyes, you can't tell me that you don't believe in love. Mm-hmm. And to me, God is love. So I don't think I need to go any further with that as far as that's concerned. And mm-hmm. I also believe that and especially at this time in the world, of what's going on out there in the world, it's just insane. And we need to hold on to love. We need to hold on to what love is. We need to realize that there's a heavy struggle going on in the world, and I don't think any of us really understand. We don't understand it like we should. But I know one thing for sure, that this world needs love. It always did. Jackie DeShannon said it. What the world needs now is love. Mm-hmm. That song still makes me cry when I hear it.
Roxanna, thank you for sitting through that. That was
I loved it.
There's a legendary studio drummer, Jim Keltner, who's played with everybody, and including George Harrison and Leon Russell, and he was a jazzer. Wow. And, he's been on every great record that you've ever gotten off on. And I had my first chance to interview him in August of 2014, and I found it striking what you just said there about heart space and love, because that's his concept of love. But I feel, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it, is that so like you said, we're all in our mind in the West and very cerebral. And then the goal is to drop to your heart, okay? And yet in the heart, there is emotion, right? And so the ultimate thing is to drop to what I call, and what my friend drummer John Molo calls, the primordial gut, or the soul, mm-hmm. okay? Mm-hmm. And I want you to talk about how you've cultivated that, because I think that's how we can have an impact with love in our world, is by accessing the soul space, the primordial gut. And to me, that happens through rhythm. That can happen through conversations on the radio. That can happen through yoga. It can happen, many things. But I find myself having out-of-body experiences, and really accessing a primordial part of me. And that, in turn, is what can bring it to love. Otherwise, if you stay in the heart space, I believe that inevitably human emotions and that entire plethora of them I've felt it. It can be very weighty and heavy. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Thanks. This is the stuff I swim in, so I can't tell you how kind of enlivening and exciting the topics are.
Well, I felt that from the minute that I just inherently knew that's just infinite wisdom. I just knew that about you from the minute I connected with you. So I'm glad.
That's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. So you're talking about the primordial gut.
Yeah.
And I wonder first, because the words that are coming to my mind are wisdom seat, like the wisdom consciousness, the observer, not so much the heart and emotions, but the soul. So whether I feel like they can be interchangeable. They might just be a little differently located in the body depending on who's talking.
I feel like, especially to get to a tribal or spiritual place in music, you have to be not thinking at all and not really. You're basically in a place of. I guess they would refer to it as the zone. And and it's a very hard place to access. But I just wonder, in your like when you made a decision to be a teetotaler, did you find, what was your meditative practices to get yourself off of whatever you were, to get to a space where you, weren't, because, I feel like you've, and like many people, like it was a very traumatic sort of upbringing, and people have different upbringings that way. And, oftentimes I wonder, early on when you're still, trying to find your individual voice, how much, did you fall in with the right gurus? Did you ever have a guru? Did you wind up in a cult? What I'm trying to get at is like people, because like Stanley Clark, like the great bass player, like he got into Scientology because Chick Corea was in Scientology, and it got him off hard drugs. And he, at like 19, he was like, it saved him, but then it got too, it got too much. And I'm like, did you have to learn? I think that's the hardest concept for people today, especially kids like my daughters. It's like, in order to learn wisdom, you have to, fall down, fail before you get there, Is there a story?
Okay. Well, yeah, there were a couple. One, so I got sober at 19, went off everything, and I went to AA. And so I made a joke that it's kind of a cult. It's not a cult, but it's an organization, and it's got its own dogma, but it really saves a lot of lives, and I'm sure it saved mine. And I went religiously for years until I was about 34. So I was sober 15 years. And around 34, I decided, hey, I don't know if I would go back. I wanted to drink. And see what was going on and see if I had an actual issue with it. Well, I do. So I found out, and I got lucky because at 41, I got sober again. And I don't drink, and I haven't had a drink since in the last 14 years. I really got to see that the alcohol as a substance for me is something I don't have a whole lot of control over in my thinking. I became a slave to my desire to drink. I woke up and I was like, when am I drinking today? And if I had a social event with friends, I would manage it around alcohol. And it just was wild how it became, it was addicting. Like I was just super, I could not think about alcohol, and that I did not want to be a slave. So I am lucky because I know some people want to get sober and aren't able to get sober, but I was able to get sober, and I don't go to meetings because a lot of times they want you not to do any substances, and I really do enjoy smoking pot sometimes, and I don't have that mental addiction where I'm not sitting here today talking to you thinking, oh, I can't wait to get high after this interview. But I would be doing that with alcohol, or I might even be
Interesting.
drinking
That is
while I'm
so.
talking.
Yeah, right. That okay. So you just that is so. Well, anyway,
I think
continue.
it's a chemical thing, and
Yeah.
it's in my family, and
Yeah.
it's they say it's genetic, so I'm fine with that. Like I don't need to test that. But it wasn't a particular spiritual path that led me to sobriety the second time, but in my not drinking alcohol, and here's where I want to come back to the primordial gut, because you asked me what's the next thing other than, yes, we're in our head, then we drop to our heart, but where do we get into our soul or our primordial gut? And how I get there is through presence. And that's a word that's used a lot, but man, if you think about the word presence, and if we were to riff on that concept, it is deep. And presence is consciousness, and it's how I access love, and it's how, if I'm addicted to a substance or if I'm drinking alcoholically, I'm anything but present. I'm not present at all. So in that stopping in stopping drinking or in stopping anything that I'm kind of enslaved to, it allows me to be more present with myself.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's something. Well, I was just talking to my neighbor last night. Our kids are roughly the same age, and he, I mean, he loves his wife, and he loves his kids, and they have a hard, typical American existence. But there's a lot of violence, and a lot of it's from alcohol, and like for me, I don't mind having a couple of drinks. I don't have I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think mine has more to do probably mine is definitely more marijuana, cannabis based than alcohol based. But I like, anyway, you get into, you're not present. Your presence is key. I mean, there's different ways of, but it's hard to do. I mean, are you able to genuinely engage, not just when you're having discussions like this where you could we could riff on this for forever, but in all parts of your life, have you had to cultivate the intention? What are your intentions? The intentions for everything, and your presence. I mean, how has that evolved for you? Because there always are people who you're rolling your eyes like, oh, I don't know if I can really handle this right now. I don't know. That's how I feel.
No, totally. Yeah. Okay, so when I was drinking let's say I was 40, this is the year before I get sober, and then, but he opened a craniosacral school in Boulder. He's pretty famous, and every time he and I would have a conversation, his eye contact would freak me out so badly because he was so present. And he would just look at me with these clear blue eyes. And I remember how uncomfortable I was because what he was, in retrospect, I think what he was offering and embodying was pure presence. He was listening to me. He was there. And I was so out of my body, and I was a parent of small children. I was a stepmom. I was drinking. I was coping. I was super stressed. And I think, another word that people describe me as is present. And I work with small children. I'm a preschool teacher in the afternoons. And And it's so amazing because these little guys, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, that's all they are, is present. They don't have iPads, they don't have phones. They're just in the classroom like, look at me. I'm here. Be with me right now. And all they're requiring from me is my presence. And so it's a practice. It's a daily practice. I'm in intimate relationship with 17 little present beings. And if I'm not present, it's a bad day. Like we are just at odds.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Yeah.
And if I'm present and I'm dropped in, they're right there with me. They meet me. And it's beautiful.
You're getting an opportunity to, gratitude is the attitude. So when you're in the flow, like that is an incredibly important reminder. What is it? Where do you still feel that? Where's the place where you feel an urgency to grow the most as a healer, as a cultivator? I mean, you're not a dogmatic person. You're not somebody who is unscrupulous. But I wonder about, this, like with your ego and with your judgment. How do you, like, were those things that you had to work on as well? I mean, what is the area you want to work on the most?
I just want to say that's an awesome question. I would like to ask other people that in other contexts.
I mean, you're talking to there's nobody, as a Gen Xer, there's nobody doing, you could get great questions from Jake Feinberg.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so here's where I would say what I want to work on the most, what I'm working on right now, and it's kind of a beautiful timing, perfect storm. I'm embodying really, you said I'm not dogmatic. That's totally true. And sometimes I'm too spacious to a fault.
Right.
For example, people are looking to me,
Right.
and especially it's interesting. Something's happening in my 50s. I'm 55. I've become more, what's the word? Like, just by my age alone, I'm getting this respect afforded to me somehow. Like, oh, you must know things. And I am being asked by my community to take my wisdom seat, to really take my seat as teacher. And where ego has gotten in the way in the past is being insecure. Like, oh, what do I have to teach? I don't have anything to say. Like, well, or why doesn't anyone know how much I have to offer, but I'm hiding out? I don't want to fail, so I don't take the risk. And the last couple of years, I've really been putting myself out there to teach meditation classes or a meditation series or offer healing retreat for women who have had cancer, or just things I know about, things that I would like to share from a place of sharing. But initially, as I put them out there, I would kind of put them out there but not back it up with really holding the space and leading. So my edge, and the more I do it, the more I'm able to do it. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I think you are in like a really amazing place because I think in the next 10 years you're going to like grow into somebody who, there's this fine line between insecurity. Well, I don't feel like, I mean, if you have a niche, if you know if a certain thing, then you're good. But I have an issue with, sort of letting things just sort of develop naturally, as opposed to just interjecting myself sometimes because I want to be, sometimes I do have good things to say, but I also I don't have that sort of stillness sometimes that is required as a leader. I think being a leader, truthfully, is taking people down paths that they wouldn't normally go on. And I wonder if that's something that you know, where, you know, my first book came out in November, and I got a random text out of the blue from a guy that I know and a guy I've done some interviews with. He's a prolific entrepreneurial business person, and he's just like, Jake, he's like, I bought your book. He's like, I haven't made this many notes or highlights in a book since high school. And he's, you know, he's older than us. And he's just like, this has common threads across all leadership, all realms of leadership. And the things he talked to me about, about the successful leadership, again, this is more in kind of a corporate setting, but I think I'd like you to talk a little bit about conflicts and how that only really through conflict and the resolution of that conflict does trust emanate. I don't know if you can have, I mean, it's definitely true on the bandstand. I think it's true in the workplace, because if you overcome that conflict, then you get accountability and commitment and ultimately trust. But you also have to be secure with yourself. And so actually my heart tells me, again, my heart, I actually feel like what you're doing with the children is incredibly significant and far more interesting than just, not that it's insignificant, but I mean, there's just, we're saturated with, I mean, you get 15 different definitions of what yoga is now. You know, so everybody's teaching those classes, and you know, there's this hierarchy there, and it's even if you try to stay completely detached, other people's stuff will enter into your existence. You know, and I almost feel like children are forever, and in some ways, Roxanna Kopp Smith is forever. So maybe working with the younger cats is really the direction you need to go in.
Well, definitely it is, because that's what's opening up for me,
exactly.
Right? It's like, this is what it is, so it's obviously, I feel like it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. And for friends of mine who know me, they were just shocked that I was working with kids, because I used to work with kids 30 years ago, and I've been working with kids for the last 2 years as my own children are growing up and becoming young adults. And I love it. And what's even cooler, because I'm working now, I live in the Bay Area, and the Bay Area has changed. I mean, it's always been
No, you don't. And actually, I got to be honest. It freaks me out a little bit. I mean,
me too.
It's like, I mean,
the
it's like
energy
all
is high. It's like LA now.
It's all and no. I mean, nobody that's from San Francisco lives there. It's all like foreign wealth. It's just like so. Yeah. It's like a transplant or something. It's bizarre.
Yeah. No, it's intense. It's really intense. And So I'm here in the Bay Area. The parents, you know, the old thought of like, oh, it's all hippie land. No, it's not. It is so not anymore. Like, it's pretty hard to find a hippie in San Francisco. It's high tech, and it's people working really hard to have a shoulder where you throw a rock and you hit it 3 yoga teachers. And now I'm here in Northern California, where you think that it's all about spirituality and yoga, but actually it's not. And so here I am. I'm kind of a novelty to these young 30-something parents and their kids. And it's so beautiful, because I'm bringing these concepts, I'm embodying certain concepts that it's almost new to them. So I'm leading meditation classes for the parents. I'm supporting them right where they're at, so that they can find some presence to bring to themselves and back home to their kids. And then I'm with the kids and I'm teaching.
Well, that's perfect. Then you are already, you are affecting,
perfect.
it is so beyond perfect. It's perfect.
I know. and it's such a,
Oh, man.
like, my work has to have a service quality to
Sure,
it,
sure,
and
sure.
this is absolutely that.
Service,
It's beautiful.
seva, service to mankind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Seva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's anyway. We have one more voice to play for you. Again, you're not going to know who it
Okay.
is, but take a listen to it, and we'll come back.
Okay.
Spiritual thing is basically when you're playing, and it's just not bebop. This is other music too, but bebop is in jazz is probably that's the high end of what we do as jazz musicians. But just the spirituality comes from it's like something. Now this may sound abstract, but it's something that Wayne Shorter said to me one time. He said that the only way you can really, really, really play is that you have to go to the store and buy some milk for your grandmother. You know, and when he said that to me and the drummer Omar Hakim, now he had a few drinks, 3-year-old drink.
Right.
I said, "Wow!" But a couple days later, it hit me, you know, because you know it's like to come if you have one of those kind of families. You go to see your grandmother. She says, "Go to the store and get me some milk," and you go there. There's a love. There's a love for something other than just what you're looking at. It's like your own personal love, which could come from God, which could come from the force of life. It could be whatever it is that you think makes you tick. That if you tap into that, whatever that is, it's not a material. It's not the instrument. It's not the notes. It's the life force. And that is very, when you operate on that band, that's or on that frequency in life, that is very spiritual.
Okay, Roxanna, that was Stanley Clark, who was another incredible, heavy. I mean, he's a dear friend of mine. I mean, you know, part of this whole journey for me was that in my early 30s, I got back on the radio after being a teacher, and I didn't know what I was doing exactly, but then I eventually found this niche and of interviewing creatives and artists from before I was born about myriads of things that we've been talking about, and then all sorts of musical collaborations and neighborhoods, racism, the radio, and it's just I'm drowning in content. But some of this stuff is the most. It feeds me because like I've played that clip for people before. You know, you got Wayne Shorter saying playing spiritual music is like going to the store to get your grandma some milk. You know, you just have to do it. You do it.
Yeah.
There's a service component to it, and I wonder, as it relates to your kids, do you feel that you can get stronger bonds with your kids in this service mentality? Not you servicing them. I'm saying where are they at, and that sort of unconditional. I guess we're talking about unconditional love, and there's plenty of failures in that. But to me, that's like if my grandma Nettie needed me to do something, I'd just do it because I have unconditional love. And I wonder if you have that with your children.
Well, I'm going all over the place because, first of all, my grandmother was one of my, and still is, one of my most favorite human beings, and I would have so loved to go get her some milk right now.
Hold on for a second.
She's
So
not
I want to be clear.
anymore.
I want to be clear. Out of all that darkness and alcoholism, she was always the bright light for you.
It originated from them, and the way they loved me, and
That's so
and
beautiful.
They were really, they were angels to me. So there's that, and then there are my two kids that I love so much, and then there are the children that I work with, and I think what you're asking is, am I teaching them about unconditional love, or
I think what I'm trying to say is, when do you feel that feeling in your life that he's talking about? You know, when you know that there is no other option, because even if you have even if you have the coronavirus, you're going to go to the store to get your grandma some milk.
Yeah.
When do you feel that the
Yeah.
most in your life? Is it with the kids? I mean, I know that's more of a recent thing, but is there something over the trajectory of
Yeah.
your life where you feel that?
Well, I definitely feel it with my own children. My God, like there is nothing. I can lift a car if my kid was under the car, no problem.
Right.
It's something that is really beautiful in my daily life that I get to do because I start work at 12, and right when I come in at 12, a lot of the kids are going down for their naps, and I get to rub their backs and as they're falling asleep, and I'll always check in and say, would you like me to rub their back? And a lot of times they say yes, sometimes they say no. It's totally fine, but I get to just be present and soothe a child and allow they feel safe enough and relaxed enough to just slowly fall asleep, and to watch that, it's so beautiful, and it just feels like a privilege to be able to do that and just check in, like, because we have 17 to 18 kids age 2 to 5, and it gets pretty dynamic, and I'm not always able to sit and to drop in with each child.
Right.
And each one of them is carrying a whole bunch of feelings and stress, and just being in a preschool from 7:30 in the morning till 6 at night, some of these guys. So to have that time together, there's a real, it's love, just gets cultivated to witness these children grow and be there for them.
Do you ever talk to the younger parents about the benefits of plant medicine?
It's so funny. I don't, because yes and no, there's potential there. I don't yet, because a lot of times when the parents are picking up, they're picking up at 5:45,
Yeah, right.
5:55. They want to grab their kid, get home.
Yeah, no.
They're
I'd be there for like an
stress these
hour,
young
like hanging
parents-
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah. The stress these guys are under is
Man,
amazing
that's
to me.
crazy, man.
But
Jesus.
I know, it is crazy. And I'm leading a parenting series this summer all about mindfulness and how to put on your own oxygen mask, how to become present or find moments of presence during the day, not even like, hey, get an hour-long meditation practice. Just find a few moments of presence. But in that series, there's always potential for sharing about plant medicine, sharing about journey space, sharing about heart-opening medicine, intimacy, potential work with their own partner, because like having young kids, it's a huge stressor on
madness.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it.
Well, it's just
really don't.
in these times are we've just made it more complex. It wasn't this complicated before, of course.
No.
People were also having large families so that the kids could work on the farms. I mean, things have changed a lot.
Right.
But now, I also feel that there's something in the hierarchical structure that would be very good as a sort of a mother of infinite wisdom that you are, is to not allow the kids to supersede the hierarchical structure of the family.
No, I see that. It has to be that pyramid. And so I just had this thought when you were talking. It's like they say it takes a village, and I want to be two working parent lifestyle. The village has gone out the window.
I'm sorry, the Skype just dropped out. Can you say that again? You said, I want to be.
I want to be the village. I want to.
You can't be the whole village, but you can be
I want to help create.
Yeah,
it.
I did.
And hold space for it.
Perfect. Then there you go.
And offer prompts like, hey, here's a couple's heart-opening journey you guys could go on as parents, and check it out.
Or just respecting each other. That's part of the issue, is that we live in a very transactional age now. I look at my parents, who were in their early 70s, and they love each other unconditionally, meaning they don't resent what the other person doesn't have, and they love what the other person does have. But that's not what my generation was, and that's not what my marriage for 13 years turned into. And a lot of it now is more really, it's not even about like getting away. Yeah, you know what? Some of it is about getting away, but a lot of it is like it's not a tit for tat thing. It's showing respect for each other if you truly care about each other and enjoy spending time together. I mean, it's very basic stuff because, like you said, a lot of parents also, just because of the demands of the day, they have kids and they go home and emotionally they can't even be there for their kids because they want to be on their phone or they just want to, they have more work to do and they can't. So it just sort of is, and you feel clearly at the end of the day that you're not, that you're, I don't, failure might be a wrong word, but it just adds to the pressure of it all. So I think you have a tremendous, I mean, because we've already crossed the Rubicon here. I mean, we're way beyond, you know, I mean, people are like, oh, it's, you know, I mean, things are going to get incredibly dark before the light gets, I mean, you know, it's up to us to keep the beacons of light incredibly light because it's going to get much darker in ways that we can't even predict. Nobody would have predicted this virus, you know?
Right.
So, you know,
right.
you know, so it's about being as creative and resourceful and reinventing yourself and,
Yeah.
you know,
Live.
you know, I know you got a jam, but, you know, I would love to come up and do some plant medicine with you.
Okay.
Do you have spring, maybe during some kind of spring break or something like that? I'm not sure if the school even has that.
Well, it's funny you should ask. I mean, our school has just shut down for the next 3 weeks because of this virus, and we're scrambling. So spring break's kind of gone out the window, but I can certainly speak with you more offline about possibilities that I think would really be interesting to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like this was a very you know, we basically stayed in the cosmos the entire time, so it was a very beautiful, and I appreciate you, this was like, you know, on your birthday, you can feel people, you know, the frequencies are being raised so high. People, I mean, the work that I've done is mainly heart-driven work. Haven't made a lot of money on it. So that's not my intention. To be able to be able to connect with you today was very humbling for me. And it was you have many years of incredible inspiration ahead of you, and bless you, my friend. It was great to hang with you.
Thank you. You too. Blessings on your year, and thank you for this.
Yeah, really. What a great way to start the year, Roxanna. All right, and we'll
thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Jake. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Birthday transmission on the Jake Feinberg Show. Roxanna Kopp Smith. That's it for now. We're back tomorrow with Johnny Otis. Until then, peace.